The trigger has just been pulled on the economy. And what you're about to witness in the next 90 days when the data comes out from what happened, the fallout from yesterday's stock market decline and crypto market crash, that was a crash, will be bigger than the FTX crash in 2008. And the reason why I can say this is for a couple of different reasons. But I want you to realize there's other factors at play. There are a handful of companies that have just recently went bankrupt in the auto industry, and they have been found to have off-sheet debt that is so big that billions were just wiped away and creditors are reeling. But you as a retail investor won't learn about it until Wall Street tells you after the fourth quarter is completed. The government's been lying for quite some time, but they can keep things propped up with just keeping people happy. Just yesterday alone, $1.65 trillion worth of value was wiped out from the US stock market. There were banks, institutions, and retail investors that got wiped out yesterday that had margin accounts, that had leveraged positions. I'm not saying that I agree with those. I just don't, but that's me. This is life. It was all done by a tweet storm. I guarantee you, in the next months to come, you're going to find out that wealthy individuals knew about this ahead of time and they bought up the dip, which was actually not very liquid on the crypto markets. I know this from experience. And I'll say that there's been a shift because last night I was attacked by two people I really respected, really liked. Both of them have my phone number. We've spent hours and hours on the phone. Both people that attacked me on X are in the decentralized camp, which I love. They love gold and silver because it's decentralized against centralized banking. And they love decentralized crypto because it's against centralized crypto. I love it. And out of the blue, the attacks started coming last night, and I started to notice a shift. And I think the decentralized crowd are about to get a rude awakening here pretty soon because they don't understand how to flow. The reason why centralization is able to happen in the first place, and please do me a favor, type 1 if you agree with, or type yes or no if you agree with this. Centralization is allowed to happen because humans let it happen because they're greedy. They don't want to put in the hard work. They don't want to be decentralized. They don't want to be their own banks. They want other institutions or people to do the hard work for them. This is why people get scammed on the internet by fake economic ninjas. They won't buy a $200 course or a $29 course or any of that stuff, but they'll give a fake economic ninja $100,000, $200,000. The record now is $800,000 to some scammer in another country that's using AI for my voice and calling them and saying, I'll invest your money for you. That is absolutely ludicrous. Even after years of starting, building, and owning a financial education company, I watch people that email me saying, hey, your account was hacked and I just lost $50,000. I'm like, well, you only lost $50,000 because you obviously gave someone $50,000. And I just looked at your record and you never watched any of the courses where I state, I will never ask you for money. This is how you secure your accounts. This is how you know this account is not real and it's not mine. And I'll never ask you for money. And so what's happening right now is there is a massive shift, and this market turn down that there's a lot of pointing fingers, right? Look, it was China. Look, it was the president. Look, I'm going to tell you right now, this is a massive collapse in the US economy right now is being covered up. And the proof is in the pudding with the bankruptcies of, I'm blanking out of the company yesterday. I did the video yesterday about a stock market crash is coming. And if you'll go back to yesterday's video, which was filmed right as the stock markets were opening, I had no idea that by the end of the day, the Dow would be down 900 points. The S&P would be down a couple percentage points. Crypto would be melting out. I didn't know the time, but I know the season. because I can sense it. I know when I'm being lied to. One of the people that attacked me yesterday, I actually put down in writing that they wouldn't keep their business deal with me. And I told someone, I kept one thing in confidence. I'm all, that person will not keep their deal with me. And then I texted the person. I said, you know what? Even if you decide you want to break our deal, I'll keep my side because I want to help you out. And I did. I kept all my word. And the person texted me in the middle of the night in a tweet storm and said, hey, deal's off. I don't like your lack of integrity. Even that person couldn't realize that they were actually, when they said the deal is off, they were not keeping their word, which is a lack of integrity. And so what's happening in the gold and silver space and the decentralized camps, they don't realize the reason why gold isn't the currency of the world. It's because all the poor people that want decentralization are too poor to buy up all the gold. They actually love to spout out the thing when they buy an ounce of gold. They save up, and I know what it's like to save up. I was a firefighter working half the week, 3 to 4 days solid at work, and then I would go and clean toilets. I had a house cleaning business that me and my dad would do to make extra money. Man, if anything's gonna get me emotional, that would. How do you like being made fun of when you're a millionaire, right? And you're trying to help people make money, and you're a full-time firefighter, and you're getting mocked by your coworkers because you're out cleaning houses. I took all that money and invested it a long time ago. Thank you, Dad, for helping me, by the way, if you're listening to this. Gold people love to spout this term, he who owns all the gold rules. But they're so poor, it took everything they could to buy 1 ounce of gold. They don't understand because of infighting, backbiting, lying, not keeping your word, and not being true. And they're always the ones that spout off they know Jesus, just so you know. This is why you shouldn't let man dictate your relationship with God, the creator of this world that created you, based off of what some schmo says. Okay? Don't hold back a relationship with Jesus Christ because of some other man's words. Don't ever hold back your desire to know your creator because of something I said, right? That's the worst tragedy ever. But the truth is, there's a shift happening, and golds and silver bugs don't understand that gold goes down in nominal terms compared to other things like dollars when things go bad. And they get super offended when you bring up just facts and history. I'm just trying to help people out. And on real quick, just let me make it clear. I'm not selling any of my gold and silver. Why? Because ever since the beginning of this channel, I have taught people to have a basket of investments, right? I'm not in the position where I have to sell because I have other things that are going well, other things taking up my mind, other investments that are going and moving, right? We're supposed to be in this world, but not of it. Well, the truth is Satan runs this system, and the system's being smacked down right now in front of you. You're going to see in 90 days the proof of what I'm talking about. I made this exact same tempo type of video right as FTX was crashing. I said, get ready. You're going to experience a banking crash in America. And that is exactly what happened. Because by the time thank you so much, Alexis. I appreciate that. By the time the truth came out about 90 days later, when the quarter turned and everyone figured out who was involved, Silvergate, La Jolla, then it turned into I'm blanking out on the bank that was in the Bay Area, but it was the big one that everybody was talking about. And then that bank crashing took out a bunch of other banks. You're going to see that in 2026. And that's actually not going to make the price of gold go up. Another thing you have to understand, and you have to be successful. I used to say this in the fire station because they always like to play these games with each other because these men weren't men, they were boys running around in men's bodies playing mind games with each other. I said, hey, look, I just need to know the rules. Put them in writing. I just want to know what sandbox I'm supposed to play in, and then I can play in the sandbox and make a really cool castle. But you can't keep telling me I'm doing something wrong when you don't have anything in writing, right? And so the reason why, not only does gold outside of our money system now, it's because the rich people took it all from you. And I have a plan, and that plan's going to succeed. You watch, it's going to succeed. where Ninja Nation, which is so powerful, it has nothing to do with me, Travis, the economic ninja. It is a group of people coming together because they listened to a watchman and they bought up certain asset classes that are exploding in price. They're not emotional, right? Sure, there's a fringe outside group that gets emotional, that sits and watches videos on YouTube and just emotionally reacts to everything. But I'm telling you, when Bitcoin hits 150 grand, and I think it's going to actually happen because it's going to blow past 150, go up to like 250,000 on a blow off top, and it's going to happen almost overnight. It'll seem like it's almost overnight, but it'll happen in a couple of weeks span. And then it's going to start coming down as the economy is collapsing. I actually believe now we're within the 5-6 months of this happening. And what's going to happen is silver is going to also downturn and gold's going to downturn because stocks are downturning. When stocks go into a long-term downturn, the last time this happened, let me remind you, because a lot of people on X, and I'll put the link down below if you want to follow me on X, you can watch this stuff or read it, watch people melt down. They're talking about how gold goes through these cycles, that it goes up 10, 20, 30 times, or I don't remember exactly the words. And I said, the last cycle I remember in gold that's really important to note is because we're about to repeat it exactly, okay, on a higher magnitude, was when gold was sitting, it rose about 130% between 2004 to 2007, something like that. And then it started to dip. Gold and silver started dropping in mid 2007 because stocks had already started dropping in early 2007, late 2006. And after prolonged dropping in the stock market, money managers run to gold and silver, their holdings, whether it be paper or physical, if they're up, and they sell it because they've got to rehypothecate or recapitalize their holdings, right? Because they're going through, sorry for lack of better terms, they're going through a margin or a liquidity crisis, okay? Because they bought investment vehicles on margin. They borrowed money, right? Debt. Debt is what always ends up building empires and then collapsing them. Okay. That's why you have to have a certain part of your empire debt free, like your personal home, your vehicles, things like that. And then you could start an LLC and start, go crazy and have fun with that. Right. But if it detonates because you were on the wrong side of a cycle, then because your timing was just off, right? That's all it comes down to is timing. Timing, type one, if you agree, it all comes down to timing. If your timing's right, you're always going to nail it. So my point being is that these people that are freaking out, they don't understand because they don't have enough money. And that cycle, when stocks start to sell off, that's when the Fed starts really lowering rates. I love it when I say the Fed's hasn't lowered rates, and they always say, and I do it on purpose to try and test people's knowledge. And they go, well, they just lowered it the other day. I'm like, no, that was a political stunt. It did nothing to the economy. It did nothing to lower mortgage rates. We are in a banking crisis right now that you don't know about. That was a political stunt. That's it. It's a battle between the White House and the Fed, which, to be honest with you, so much in bed together, it's pathetic. But hey, what are you going to do? You just got to show the people you care, right? Just enough to keep them from rioting. So when the Fed starts really lowering rates, a rate lowering cycle is exactly what that says. The Fed starts to come out with an emergency meeting. There's a problem. We're going to lower rates. And it ain't 25 basis points. It's 50 or 75. And then the next time they're slated to meet, they lower it again and again. And then maybe in between two of those standard meetings of the Fed, they lower again. That is when we're in a lowering cycle. Okay. And guess what? You're not going to be able to get a loan. Even if you had pretty good credit, if you got stellar credit, you're always going to get a loan because banks always have to loan money. They have to churn money to stay in business. The velocity of money is the number one important factor in economics. All right. But if you got so-so credit, you ain't getting a loan because banks are tightening up lending because they're getting their hands slapped by the Fed because of them easing their lending standards. And this is happening all over. I've been reporting on this for the last 2 years. But because people remember the crash of 2008 because they learned about it the week of September 17th, 2008, They felt like it was overnight. It wasn't. People like me were selling their homes in 2005 and running for the doors. That's when Robert Kiyosaki, I met him in early 2005. He said I was one of the smartest people he'd met because I got it. I understood the cycle and I was ahead of time and I was actually doing something about it. But the truth is, most people don't get it. So I hope that you understand this and I hope you remember this video. I hope you record it, like download it, use it against me if I'm wrong in the next 3 to 6 months. And I say 3 to 6 months because the data is going to come out the first week of January about what just happened here. But even before that, there's going to be cracks as large companies like banks and financial institutions start prepping you for what's coming in earnings week because they're going to try and soften the sell off. It's going to be really interesting, considering also that there's always end of the year, not profit takings, but loss sells for tax purposes, which could only exacerbate the issue. Now that we're seeing the gold and the decentralized crypto community flip on me, and these aren't like the people doing it's the leaders, right? You're seeing because they can't, and I'm going to be honest with you, they all have one thing in common, and I'm not going to bring that up, but it's because they can't see the cycle flip, and they've been so diehard, and they don't have the money, the means, or the community to be able to say, hey, let's buy up all the gold. And when Bitcoin hits that 150 after it's coming down, I'm going to be converting a large portion of my Bitcoin into precious metals, physical precious metals, and vaulting it. And I believe honestly, and I'm just curious, by a show of hands, type me if you are actually planning on doing the same thing. When we see a specific point where precious metals are weak, but you're still really up on crypto, and to be able to convert a good portion of that into physical metal, we'll actually own the entire market. And this isn't like a us versus them. It's this movement of people that for the first time in history have gotten together and been meek, meaning meekness is having full power and authority to do something for yourself, whatever you desire, but waiting until and waiting to pull the trigger till it makes sense for not only you but for humanity as well, for others, where it'll bless other people. That's true meekness. And that's why in the Beatitudes in the Bible, it says the meek shall inherit the earth. It doesn't say God's people will inherit the earth. It says the meek will. Meek is like Warren Buffett slowly buying up things when they're on sale and then slowly selling them when they're topping, and all the people. Meekness is not like running out and, buying the Lambos and buying all these fancy things but just like, hey, I'm slow and steady wins the race. This is why he accumulated so much wealth, because he's meek. He never used his wealth for his gain. He just used his report card was his bank account. My financial report card is my bank account. Same with you. I hope you're getting A's right now. You may be getting B's or C's, but you just started and you're like, you know what? Now I figured out the game. I'm going to start getting better grades. Hope you got something out of this. The Economic Ninja is out. It's about to get real exciting.